about talking about our mental health and that we support each other through what can be a really difficult time. So it only seemed appropriate to hold this event today. Now, I'm going to give you some quick background about myself. So I've always been the sort of person to overreact to life's difficulties, although I'd like to clarify now that I hate the word overreact. It implies that I had the choice to react normally, and I don't feel that I did. I certainly would have taken that choice if I had the choice. I'd often get panicked or extremely nervous and irritated for the smallest reasons. And when I came to university, I started to realise that this was probably due to anxiety. And at the time, I also developed heart palpitations, which, although were completely benign in nature, were extremely frustrating. Thankfully now, through cognitive behavioural therapy that's offered by the university, I'm now feeling a lot better, although I still have a long way to go. And throughout the last few years, I often felt like I couldn't communicate how I was feeling to others. And so I began to draw things on random pieces of paper or on the notes on my phone in order to get across how I was feeling and what I was experiencing. So for example, I drew this to represent how my palpitations felt, like a normal ECG heart trace followed by a gaping black hole. I then started to play around with the idea of weights because when I was at my worst and my most anxious, this was exactly how it felt. Like I had no energy and that weights were pulling me down constantly. I then incorporated this into a piece of artwork that I entered into the C21 medicine art competition. The idea of this was to show how the responsibilities of being a doctor can weigh you down, but also being a doctor and saving people's lives can bring you up. So on the left is the original sketch that was on my notes on my phone, and on the right is the finished piece, which I'm sure you can agree is much better than the original. So I actually was lucky enough to win that competition, and when I was told that I'd won, I ran around the house and cried. And it wasn't because it was me that had won, it was because it was this piece that had won. It was because I finally felt validated and I finally felt like someone understood. And during the art exhibit for that competition, I got to speak to so many people about what those weights felt like. And it was amazing because although it was really scary, it was great to talk about my mental health so openly and to have people feeling like people really listened to me. I'm sure you'll agree that many of the entries we've seen outside today do a fantastic job at depicting the struggles of living with mental health problems. And they provide a window into the lives of individuals, and perhaps even more importantly, they provoke conversation. There are also entries outside that are not necessarily about living with mental health conditions, but they are about friendship and support and research and public perception of mental health. They provide, one of the main reasons I wanted to run this event, besides giving individuals the opportunity to express themselves, was to get people talking about mental health. So I'm sure you're aware there's some brilliant campaigns going on nationally at the moment, but it's also really important that on a community level we fight against stigma too. And I really hope that you've already had some interesting conversations this evening. Of course, words also, when used in the right way, can be just as eye-opening. And in fact, more often than I draw, I tend to write poetry or phrases on my phone, and my notes are just full of them. And some of the entries that you've seen today include words that really add to the overall image. And often hearing words of others can help you to understand yourself. So as an example, the actress Carrie Fisher, who had bipolar disorder, wrote in one of her books, "I act so much like myself, it's a little unreal. It's a lot of work, it's no big deal." For me, this just perfectly captures the idea of pretending to be okay when you're really not, and how natural it can appear to others, even though it takes so much energy to do so. And sometimes you just need someone else to put how you're feeling into words. Another way in which words can open our eyes is through storytelling, and hearing other people's stories of mental illness can make you feel like you're not alone, and it can also enlighten people to the difficulties of living with these illnesses. And this brings me on to a short film that I created last year with the Cardiff Film Society and fellow medical student Lindsay Quaishi. In this film, which I'm going to show you in a minute, you'll hear three people talking bravely, honestly, and openly about their stories in the hope that it will reduce stigma and help others not to feel alone. We're lucky to have one of the people from the film, Laura, with us today, who is also one of the judges of the competition. And she's going to give a short talk after this film about her charity and the use of art within it. So before I start the film, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's helped for tonight. I want to say thank you to judges, Dr. Liz Forty, Dr. James Waters and Laura Durney. I want to say a big thank you to the National Centre for Mental Health for funding the majority of tonight, and to the Royal College of Psychiatrists for funding the rest. I also want to say a big thank you to Paul from the National Centre for Mental Health, who couldn't make it tonight, but he was the one that originally sat down and listened to my big plans and helped them come to life. And also to Katrin and to Lauren and to Ellen for helping tonight and helping set up and run the event. On a final note, you'll have seen another exhibit outside today, which was part of a project by Camilla Salou, and she's going to hopefully run this on a larger scale later, and she'll be explaining more about that artwork to you after Laura's spoken. And then following on from Laura and Camilla's talks, we'll be announcing the winners of tonight's competition. So I'm now really quickly going to pass over to Manzir, who's going to explain how exactly we made the film in a few minutes. So I really hope you enjoy the rest of tonight and you enjoy the film.
So this is the first documentary that Talia and I had ever made, so it's quite a difficult thing to take on. Documentaries are quite different to fiction. And so I'd watched lots of documentaries previously and listened to a lot of famous filmmakers.